to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And thanks for joining us as we continue to enjoy our off-season summer patio. This is going to be an awesome show. Grab your favorite beverage because we're going to have a lot of good conversation here. It seems like forever that we haven't done the show since it's been a while. So, we got lots to talk about with what's gone on in the past few weeks in the NHL and specific to our Leafs, of course. But before we get into it, I have a bit of a fun story to tell from a trip to the grocery store.
Do tell, Chris. Do tell.
Yeah. I was actually kind of surprised. I was wearing my Maple Leaf mask, my face mask, and a guy comes over to me. He actually came over to me in the vegetable section and he's like, "Are you a big fan of the Leafs?" And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Of course I am." I said, right? I said, why would I wear a face mask like this right after that awful playoff performance that we had, or awful ending to our playoffs, and I'm still promoting my team. But anyways, we chatted a bit about it, and then I mentioned our podcast, and I just thought it was funny how out of the blue this couple stopped me in No Frills and wanted to talk about the Leafs. And they said they would look up our show, which I hope they did. And in some ways, I think actually the Leafs are going no frills in their way about the draft and free agency. I thought that was a kind of a good way of seeing it. But yeah, I just think that I just think it's funny how we like to promote ourselves anyways and our show as much as we can, and that's what I did it in No Frills.
Yeah, well,
of all places. It's
interesting. I mean, sometimes conversations can go in the other directions, like what happened to me one time. Like, I have my lanyard at work. It has Maple Leafs on it, and somebody stopped me in line at Tim Hortons there at work one day, and asked me if I was a fan. And at this time, we were in a little bit of a slump. And of course, he took the time to tell me how my team is not doing so great right now. So sometimes you get a little bit of the negative. But anyway, the point of all this is that if you are a listener, and obviously we all know that Leaf fans know lots of Leaf fans, please do share our show with your friends and family, and tell them if you enjoy it, and hopefully they will give us a listen. And if this couple that you met in the grocery store is listening today, welcome as new listeners. So we obviously always love to add more people to our community of Ladies Talking Leafs fans and members of Leaf Nation. So.
Yeah, because she said that she would tell her mom. She said that her mom is the biggest Leaf fan ever, sort of thing. So yeah, we all Leaf fans are connected right through family lines and friends.
Absolutely.
So that's the way for our podcast. That's the way we're gonna grow, basically, and we're very appreciative of that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and before we get into the show, I just want to wish my co-host, I actually gave her a heads up before this, but I want to wish my co-host a very happy birthday. It's her birthday month in August. And
thank you.
This is the surprise though. Uh-oh. I didn't tell her this part. So I looked up a few notable Maple Leaf birthdays in August. I thought this is right. So these are the few notable ones. There were others too, but the ones that I knew she'd know were Bill Derlego. Mm-hmm. He was born in August. Shane Corson, mm-hmm. and Eddie Olczyk. They're all born. They're all born in August, and then actually Eddie Olczyk's birthday is today, August 2nd. So happy birthday, Eddie O! Yeah,
happy birthday to him.
Yeah, and then for current Leafs, their birthday, Wayne Simmons has the birthday on August 26th. Mm-hmm. And Alexander Kerfoot, assuming he's still with us, which he is, because everybody's kind of wrote him out of town for the past few months, but he's still here. His birthday is August 11th. Mm-hmm. So happy birthday to them and Sil.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. So yeah, let's get into this episode because there's a lot to talk about. What are we going to talk about, Sil?
Well, so we're going to start with covering a little bit on the expansion draft. So obviously the Seattle Kraken officially have a team, and so we'll delve into that just a little bit. Then the draft that we're a little more interested in is the NHL draft. The Leafs only had 3 picks in this one, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, this is the big one, talking about free agency.
Woohoo.
There's lots to talk about what the Leafs did or didn't do. And as to bring our show to a close, we have another anniversary giveaway. Yes, we are coming up to our 2nd anniversary. And so be sure to listen to the end so we can give you the details, and maybe you are going to be our next winner. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right. So we were both wrong with the pick that, and I think a lot of Leaf fans were wrong with who they thought we were going to lose to Seattle in the expansion draft. So it turned out that it was a player that wasn't even on our roster at the time, because we both picked obviously Kerfoot, and it didn't turn out that way. So it ended up being Jared McCann. So,
right. Even after the trade, we did a Twitter poll, and 73% of the people thought Kerfoot would be the one taken. But of course he wasn't. So let's talk about that. So what do you think of Dubas's move to get Jared McCann as a means to protect our roster?
Yeah. I mean, I was okay with it at the time. I mean, there's a lot of people up in arms on social media. They were like saying, "Why did we get this guy?" La la la. And I was like, and I actually thought we were pretty high on that Philip Hallander, who we got in that Kapanen deal.
Yeah,
like,
which is really bizarre. Like, think about it. Okay, so we get Kapanen from Pittsburgh. All right.
Yeah.
We trade Kapanen to Pittsburgh and Philip Hallander is one of the returns, and then we basically give Philip Hallander back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and we gave up another draft pick.
It's interesting because it's all about, I don't know, it's all about dollars and cap space, and less all the time about the players. It's like, so it's just so bizarre to me.
Yeah, no, it was a little bit weird that way. But yeah, and then I don't know why we had to give up. I know it was only a 7th rounder, but I don't know. Dubas has been giving up a lot of draft picks lately, regardless of, because he's basically going all in and betting on these core 4 is going to get it done for him. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was okay. It turned out, I was actually surprised. I think you mentioned it to me in our conversations during that time when the expansion was on. You said like you thought probably because Hackstall is their head coach, so he knows Kerfoot. Like, why would you take a player that you don't know? Let's just say like he was behind the bench coaching Alexander Kerfoot, but they decided to go the different route. But then there was the whole thing about, I believe Jared McCann is connected to the Sioux somehow. And there's this, apparently there's going to be a little battle because did Ron Francis play for the Sioux? I have to look for that up. But apparently there's going to be a battle.
Sioux players from the Sioux, previous players.
Yes. Anything related to hockey, like to the Sioux and hockey, Ron Francis and Kyle Dubas are going to duke it out basically as to who's going to get that, whether it be a coach or a player or whatever sort of thing, right? So, I guess anyhow, Jerry McCann ended up being the one taken, and yeah, that's it. So,
like, to me, I think the way I see it is that he did it this way to protect our defensive core. Basically, seems to be, from what I see, and when we're going to talk a little bit more about this and the roster makeup and how it's all looking right now, but I do feel like that's where they want to have, like, they've got their 4 core main players, okay, up front, but they want to have almost like a core D. So they're trying to conserve that. And I really think they thought Hall was going to be the one that if they weren't able to protect him, then.
And that was the right move too, because you can't, again, the right shot defenseman, regardless of, like, I know I was saying in the last show too that, like, he basically, him being paired with Muzzin basically is the guy driving that pairing and covering up for Hall. So when Hall doesn't play with Muzzin, basically you see a drop off in his play. But the bottom line is he's a right shot defenseman, and he's a big defenseman, and he's cheap.
Well,
So
that's the whole thing is that,
Yeah.
and like when, you heard Dubas talk about it, is they look at cost of replacement. So again, this is going back to how much does this asset cost, and what are the cap implications? So like if this person, if the quality of the player is going to be difficult to replace at those same dollars, they don't want to lose that, and Kerfoot already costs us more. So, you know what I mean? So it wouldn't have been as big a loss if he would have been taken. But we can also see that, we thought that they would want to get that the Seattle Kraken would want to get up to the cap, but we didn't know what they were planning to do in free agency. And obviously they gave out some pretty big dollar deals, with that. So maybe Kerfoot for what you're getting was more expensive than even they wanted also. Right. So,
and Dubas probably, I mean, technically you don't want to lose the player for nothing sort of thing. So if you have, it basically leaves Kerfoot available for potential trade options still sort of thing, because right now they're over the cap as well, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
But he could technically still bring other value to us through trade.
Right.
And I did look up, Ron Francis played for the Sioux Greyhounds for 2 seasons in 1980, 81, and 81, 82. So he's a former Greyhound.
He didn't run the team, and he doesn't have the same history. In that regard, like you could look at it and then he could just pilfer, be targeting Carolina players because he's really invested in that franchise as a Hartford Whaler and then being GM there and stuff like that. So anyway, I guess you can roll the takes however you want that way. But anyway, just another note on the Kraken. Our first game versus them will be in Seattle on December 19th. I was really hoping that it would be that they would be there in the spring, because that would have been a nice road trip. But anyway, they will
save it for the following year.
Yeah. And they also will be visiting Scotiabank Arena for their game here on March 8th.
Yeah. So let's move on here. Another draft. Actually, no. Before we move on, I did want to say I was kind of upset that Seattle didn't take Carey Price. I
really wanted that to happen.
Yes, I wanted that to happen. We digress to the Habs again. We won't waste too much time on them, but it would have been so great just to screw them over, because basically that's the only reason why they got to the Cup final. Yes, they played well defensively and everything, but still, he's their rock back there. And I guess Ron Francis must have gotten scared off with the whole, it was interesting how
they revealed the whole knee thing right before that. Yeah, I found that interesting too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyways, let's move on to the other draft that we want to talk a bit about is the NHL draft, which happened a couple of days after the expansion draft.
Yeah. So like you said before, we only had 3 picks, and our top pick was in the second round, and I think it was like the 57th pick or something like that. And the Leafs took Matthew Nyes. He's a left winger from Phoenix, Arizona. So if he could be in the mold of Austin Matthews, I mean, who knows what they have in the water there? Cactus juice, and anyway. Anyway, he seems pretty excited to be Leaf. He obviously grew up idolizing Austin, so that seems pretty cool to me. And in the 5th round, we took Ty Voigt. He's a right winger from Pittsburgh, and playing in the OHL with the Sarnia Sting. And with our final pick in the 6th round, they chose a goalie, Vyacheslav Peksa from
very good pronunciation there.
Russia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So we looked up a little bit on each player. Since there was only 3 of them, we could do that because we'd be here forever if we actually had to go through all 7 picks, let's just say. But Matthew Nyes, he actually compares himself to Brandon Saad. So that's not bad.
That's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, if he turns out to be like that, because especially when Saad played on those cup-winning teams in Chicago, he was a pretty good player. And just the last week of July, he had an impressive showing at the World Junior Summer Showcase, which is a tournament hosted by USA Hockey, and I guess for that tournament, there's players from the U.S., Finland, and Sweden, and even on Twitter today. They're talking about how he really stood out in this tournament. So that's a positive for him. And Ty Voigt, he models his game after Johnny Gaudreau, apparently. That's what he said. So, and I guess it maybe matches because he's kind of small in size at 5'9". But he apparently plays bigger than his size, is what the scouting report says. And unfortunately, last year, because of the pandemic, he didn't play at all. So he was basically, because he plays in the OHL with the Sarnia Sting. So he basically just did workouts and that. But
I just found it really interesting that this is the first time in my life that I've seen all of these college players picked like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because that in a regular year, you're never going to see that you might never see that again. Not saying that they're not good, but normally, like a lot of the time, the college players come in as like free agent pickups.
Yeah. Later on.
So,
and then,
but maybe things are changing.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah. And then Vyacheslav Peksa is a goalie. And I really hope one of these goalies has to pan out for us. I don't remember the last time that we
drafted this many goalies.
And that it actually worked out where they actually start for us for like at least one season, like just to make
honestly the last goalie we developed really that I can recall. Well, Tuukka Rask is one we developed, but we traded him, so you can't really count that. But I
guess it's Potvin, no? Is it Felix?
It's Felix, yeah.
So, I mean, because we have now it's
anybody. If there's somebody in there in the middle there that we're not remembering, then obviously they're forgettable. So, Justin Pogge, he never amounted to anything. He was supposed to be the star, right? But Felix would have been the only one that.
Our listeners can send us a tweet or DM us, whatever, like just to let us know if there's somebody else that we missed it from that we're forgetting. But we have Ian Scott, Joseph Wall. They're both with the Marlies. And this last year we drafted that Artur Akhtiamov, I guess, and he's playing in the KHL. Apparently he's really good. And then that Vinny Vivalainen, he wasn't offered a contract. And from the looks of it, like by the Leafs, in that deal that was in the Foligno, he came with the Foligno deal, right? Yes, with Columbus, but he's going to play for Sweden this upcoming season in the Swedish Hockey League, but he's no longer, I guess we still own his rights, but he's not, he's not going to be in our organization. So we have all these. Ian Scott and Joseph Wall, I think, are the main two that basically I'm hoping something develops out of these guys, like that something works out. Like we haven't had much luck that way. So,
Wall is the one that they just gave contract to, right? They seem like pretty high on him. So, I think he's obviously going to get more time in the Marlies this year, and I think that they are hoping he takes a step at some point, right? But he's got a couple years still, so they're sort of, I guess that's the insulation with the two that we have now.
Yeah, because we have Jack Campbell and for another year, and he basically had Joseph Wall and Ian Scott. I guess they basically have the one more year, let's just say, because we have the two goalies under contract, and then depending on what Campbell wants moving forward and how he does this season, like, I don't know. we'll see what happens, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like moving forward. But yeah.
It's been a tough year, obviously, like we said, for these kids not playing a lot due to the pandemic. So hopefully things will improve that way and they will continue to develop. And obviously we know that the Leafs, they're big on development. So they're going to do everything that they can to help these guys, and they'll give them every resource that they can. And hopefully they will get better and be part of the team's future. So, but let's get into the hot topic that we just kind of touched on a little bit, and that all Leaf fans have been talking about, and that is free agency.
Yes. Okay. So I've been waiting for this, actually. So I don't know if any of our listeners have been on Twitter and they've seen, it's been me tweeting most of the time, but basically I said that I want Sil to tell me why I should believe in Kyle Dubas' vision for this team. July 28th was a very tough day for Leaf fan, myself anyways. I know that as a Leaf fan and a lot of Leaf fans. And I said on Twitter, I need the pep talk from Sil again, because Sil is my support for that when it comes to Kyle Dubas. So basically, he hasn't made any significant trades. I have to say, like, I do like the move of Nick Ritchie. Like, that came on Saturday. So that was pretty good. I'm good with that. That kind of made me a little bit more positive, but our depth in the system is not that great still. And he's traded so many draft picks. And basically with this recent group of we're calling them fringe players, I guess, or moving the deck chairs around the core four, however you want to put it. It's like he's rolling the dice or betting on these players from the Sioux to get us over the hump, right? That's how I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't know. I'm having it. I'm, like I said, the Nick Ritchie thing, actually made me a little bit more positive on what he's done. But still, tell me why I should believe in Kyle Dubas again.
Okay, you've just given me a really, really hard task here, because yes, it was a little.
Are you actually stopping believing too?
No, I'm not, because I
We're not
see,
stopping, but
I see what he's doing, and I still think that philosophically it should work. But it's all a question of how it's going to work. The way I see it is that they're kind of looking a little bit more like at the Tampa mold. Tampa does kind of have a core, and they round it out. Like there's people that were considered fringe people that they brought in, and they're not considered fringe people anymore, because guess what? They won the cup. And some of those guys have now moved on and have gotten big contracts this summer, like looking Blake Coleman, Goodrow, like those guys. Number two, part of this is that, we are sad that there's people that have left the organization for maybe what looks like greener pastures right now. And that would be Hyman and Freddie.
Actually, I'm going to cut you off there just for a second with Hyman. Mm-hmm. For me, it's like he moved on very quickly, and that kind of made it better for me. Mm-hmm. I was sad.
Yeah, it wasn't dragged on, that's for sure.
No.
No, and he's a businessman. But the thing is part of the reason we loved Hyman is because of what he does at the money that he was making with us. So would we look at how we don't even think Kerfoot's worth what he gets for just over $3 million, right? If he was making 5.5 and only scoring 20 goals, would we be happy with that? Probably not, So I don't know. I wish him the best and everything. And the other thing I want to say about Hyman is that when we got Hyman, he wasn't anybody we knew. We didn't know what he was going to be. He became Hyman here. So my thing is
courtesy of Mike Babcock.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, though, is that Mike Babcock was brought in, and that part of it was that culture of development that Shanahan wants to, cultivate here. And that is where, if you want to look at where they're spending their money, they are spending their money hard on that. So on on the Marlies and the people they have brought in there as the new GM, for example, on the coaching staff and the people they've brought in for our coaching staff with the big club.
I don't know where we're going to fit all those assistant coaches. We'll talk about that maybe on the another show. But yeah,
let them worry about that. But my whole thing is that they've brought in some guys that are reclamation projects, some guys that maybe we don't know who they are right now, but they are going to put their development muscle behind them, and we'll see.
And hope it works, basically.
Yeah,
roll the dice with this.
But you know what? I honestly, do I want somebody in there who is like saying, well, I'm going to do this. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'm going to try it. That's not his attitude. His attitude is this is going to work. I'm confident. And I know they've run the numbers or whatever they do back there.
Yeah. All right. I'm not sure.
These guys could become something. Am I going to agree with you that this was definitely none of these were sexy pickups? Absolutely, they weren't. But what they have protected is the defensive core, and they have basically solidified the goaltending somewhat. What I see with the goaltending, and this is just a thing with style of play, is I kind of feel like both of the guys that they have now, they see as more emotional. And I do feel that Kyle Dubas is emotional. He is a really competitive guy. He is a little bit fiery. We don't necessarily see that in the press conferences, but you can see that when he's watching in the press box. He's competitive. And I feel like Freddie, there's a reason why his nickname was Steady Freddie, is because he is the same. Doesn't matter what part of the game you're in.
Very calm. Yeah,
exactly.
He's very calm in his crease.
But at the same time, you're not seeing any highs and lows, and especially you're not seeing, them digging in or looking like that guy that's gonna save the game and put it on their head. Whereas these two guys are emotional, so you're gonna see that in the game, and maybe right or wrong, they probably view that as an asset.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you convince me, but I mean, I do give Kyle Dubas
I don't think I can convince you, because there's really not that he didn't leave me much to work with. So,
but I do give him credit that he's basically sticking to his philosophy. And yes, all the teams have this issue, but given he obviously none of us knew the pandemic was going to happen. And like with the salary cap being the flat cap for at least 2 to 3 years, he obviously didn't know that going into this plan sort of thing, right? Or going into signing those 4 players at the $44 million. Right. So, I give him that. But
2 of the guys that I keyed in on that I see are kind of key for this is, well, there's actually a few. So that Michael Bunting guy, by all accounts, he's a really hard player to play against. I'm kind of interested to seeing what he does, and that's a great deal if he does what as advertised.
And FYI, he's a former Sioux Greyhound.
Well, I know that. And this is the thing, is that right now, like, all of us are thinking, man, Dubas, he's just like in love with all these former Sioux Greyhounds. But at the same time, you don't want that in a general manager, but it's okay to be that way as a fan. So it's sort of funny how hypocritical that is in a way, because, you don't want your GM to be in love with their players, but he believes in his guys. So I'm fine with that.
But Michael Bunting is from Scarborough. So that's, that's a positive. My hometown.
Yeah. So the other person that I think is key and an interesting pickup was that Andre Kasha. Part of that is because there's 2 parts of this equation. If he's healthy, he is really good. He could be a sleeper. Yeah, I know. However, the other part of it is, if he can't go, then he could be the LTIR person, because he's had 5 concussions and he's in danger of, another one. I mean, it's, so number one, they believe in their trainers and how they take care of the players and their development.
The medical staff here is probably the best in the league.
So they basically put their money into those things that other people don't have. Those other teams don't have the same resources we have for that. I'm confident saying that. So that is where it's either going to work out well or there's a savings there. So that's the second one.
Yeah, Kasha actually, because I remember him with Anaheim. I know until his name came up. I was like, and
even when we played Boston last time, 2 years more than I guess. So that's like playoffs 3 years removed now. So the last time we played Boston, he played with them and he was good. He was good in that series. I remember hearing his name a lot.
Yeah.
So and I think he's young too still. And then the third guy that I'm really interested in seeing what happens is Josh Hosang, because again, developmentally, there's things to really work with skill wise, but if they can work with his head
I was trying to find out a story behind what his issue is. Like
what it is that
it's just his attitude.
Yeah,
because that's what I got.
100%. That's what it is, because he promotes himself, because he's a bit of a hot dog, because he called out as a young player Hockey Canada for not picking him for World Juniors camps. All of this. He's got a really interesting background. He has always been a pretty big advocate for himself. He's a very skilled player. He's a really good passer. He's another kid that...
He was actually picked in the first round, the 2014 draft, which was Willie's draft.
Yeah.
And he was picked 28th overall by the Islanders.
Yeah. And even that, a lot of teams, he got picked that low because a lot of teams had him on their do not draft list.
Yeah. They said stay away from him, basically.
Yeah.
And now he's only 25. He's from here. He's from Thornhill. So... I don't know. It's kind of like the Galchenyuk reclamation project, as they're saying. But
so this is.
I was just trying to figure out what his issue was, and I guess it is just him being a little bit full of himself, basically.
Yeah, and I guess some people think that he's a bit of a selfish player. Honestly, they're offering him the PTO. They would have talked to Tavares about him, because Tavares did play with him for at least 1 or 2 seasons before he came here. So it's not like he's completely unknown to JT. I kind of want to see what they can do with him. So so this is the thing. All of these guys, they're this is the thing. This is my pep talk to you. You love playing the lottery.
Yes.
That's what this team is right now.
Yeah.
They're gambling. It's like playing the lottery.
Yeah. It's
so if it works, it could be spectacular.
It could be.
Right now, the evidence is not really there. And I agree with you that Nick Ritchie, I think that's also a good pickup. He's another local boy.
He was picked in the 2014 draft as well, 10th overall. And that's where we chose Nylander, 2 spots ahead of him. But he's a left winger. And I'm assuming he's going to play with Marner and Matthews, I'm thinking. Because he has the size at 6 feet or over 6 feet. And of course, another connection to the Sioux, where he was playing there in his draft year. He played part of it. He was traded from Peterborough, I guess, the Petes to the Sioux. And I just remember Don Cherry going on about it at that time with the draft, like saying, why didn't the Leafs pick Nick Ritchie? Like they had to go with the Swede, right? Like they didn't go with he's a big guy. He's like he's basically the same size as Matthews. I think safe to say we did make the right pick to go with Nylander. This is the thing, is that now both of them are on our team.
But so you could look at it that way also, that we now have both of them. So
the other way to look at this, which I thought was an interesting take, was we have 2 former Bruins on our team now.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help us get over the hump, right?
You never know.
You never know. Right?
This is the thing, is that sometimes I think it's true. And I believe this in my own working life, that it's better to have somebody that's well-rounded, that has been to other places. Like, it's nice to have your homegrown guys, but it's also good to have people that have been other places, because they can bring things to our team that is not necessarily from our team, and our organization can as a whole learn from that too. So that's
it's interesting.
That's a winning culture. So
another interesting take on this is all these guys are like around the same age as
I
Matthews
thought of that too.
And Marner and Nylander.
And I like that.
They're all like they're all 25, 26. So there's no father figure anymore. There's no dad.
But they still
right now.
they're going to have to be. They've moved out now, and they should be on their own. Okay, so they don't need the dads anymore. They still have veteran leadership in Spezza and Simmons, and they still have John Tavares. He's a veteran now.
Yes, for sure.
So I think it's better for them actually to not have that as a crutch anymore. Now it's on them 100%. And having a team built mostly of their peers, I think that could be really good for them.
Yeah.
So
going back to the goaltending just for a minute.
Yeah.
I actually preferred, it's just the idea for me. I think I got to get used to this tandem system because we've always had a number one, right? Which is like Mrazek is fine. I remember him, for some reason, I remember him more with the Wings than I didn't with the Detroit Red Wings. And I wasn't too impressed with the way he was there, but he was younger then, obviously, too. But I actually would have preferred getting the other Carolina goalie, the kid that Nedeljkovic. Mm-hmm. Stevie Y stole that goalie, I think, from Carolina. Like he only paid a 3rd round pick and the rights to Bernier. And this Nedeljkovic, I saw some of the games Carolina played where he was in the playoffs, and he was a Calder Trophy finalist as well. He has lots of upside, that goalie, and he was slightly cheaper because he is technically it's a little bit of a...
It's a little bit more of a crapshoot.
As a dependable backup for Jack Campbell, right? Because he is still a kid, but I don't know. I like the way he plays. A big goalie too in the crease, and also with Mrazek, I was hoping maybe for more of a 2-year deal rather than 3 years was a bit rich. But he did play for the Wings, so that's experience with the original 6 market, and that I think is important here because he's definitely, being a goalie and for the Leafs is you don't know what's different coming at you sort of thing if you but at least he has played for an original 6 market, so I don't know, he seems to be excited definitely to be on the Leafs.
Well, what I like about him is he's used to being part of a tandem, so if you look at the stats between, for example, him and Freddie, his stats are all better than Freddie's, except for the fact that he has less games played overall. So that's the reason, because he's always been part of a tandem. So he knows how to work that. And that's one of the things that I don't think Freddie's necessarily is comfortable with. So in Carolina, because they're other, who's the backup there now? I can't even remember.
Johnny Burns, I think.
Oh God. Yeah. So Freddie's going to be getting most of the playing time. It's more what he knows.
I think it's Johnny. I think they ended up, he left there. No, I think it's somebody else. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But anyways, we don't have to be concerned ourselves.
So many goalies moved
There was
around,
so much.
I can't even keep track of that. But
and then the other guy that could be interesting is this David Kampf.
Yeah, that's another person I was going to mention too.
Yeah. He didn't score very much with the Hawks last year in the 56 games. He only had 1 goal and 11 assists. But and again, it's a bit rich at $1.5 million. But from what I heard, he's very defensively responsible. That's his specialty, more like a Philip Deneau
he's
kind of thing.
Going to be our penalty kill guy.
Yeah, and he'll eat up a lot of the hard minutes that way. The defensive minutes, 10 to 13 minutes a game. And maybe Sheldon Keefe will get his checking line. They always seem. Every year it's the same. We've never had a checking line. It would just be nice to have lines that are somewhat set anyways, rather than having this mixing and matching constantly. But it would be nice to have a checking line maybe with Mikheyev and Engvall, assuming they're both still with, I'm assuming they'll still be with us. And then the other pickup was this Michael Amadio, who's 25 years old and is from the Sioux. Once again, there's a theme here.
Yeah.
But he'll probably
Did he
play
like
with them.
leave the Sioux and just be like, "Don't worry, guys, I'll get you on the Leafs at some point. Don't worry."
Yeah, so he's a Michael Amadio is a right winger / can also play center, but he'll probably play with the Marlies, I think, for depth.
Mm-hmm.
The one actually, and at defense we got some depth players as well in Alex Biega and Carl Dahlstrom, and then our signing this past weekend we signed this Brennan Manel. He was originally with the Minnesota Wild, I guess. And one thing on defense we are going to miss, I think, is Bogosian. I think that's where Dubas, I think, is going to go next, is to try and get that veteran, like a third pairing, to go with, whether it be Dermott or Sandin, or basically one of those two. Because Bogosian decided, I guess, with his family, from what I heard, they just didn't like the whole thing of being in Canada and the
not being able to do stuff.
Yeah, and so he took less money and went to Tampa, and obviously they think that everybody's saying it's just for winning sort of thing. But hey, there's no guarantee it's going to happen again for Tampa next year.
No,
right? It's going to be a different setup with the 82 game schedule, hopefully, and and then of course Foligno went to Boston, and a lot of people with that Nick Foligno, they were saying, "Oh, great, we traded our first round draft pick to Columbus so that he could go to Boston." Right? Like they're
yeah. I mean, the optics are not great. I'll give you that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of pieces there that Kyle Dubas has shuffled the deck chairs, and we're gonna see how it works out in training camp as to who goes where and who's still here too, because they do have to make a deal before the season starts, because the Leafs right now are over the cap by $1.4 million. So in order to be compliant, they can either make a trade, putting a player on LTIR, which you're mentioning, maybe, hopefully not, knock on wood, but or they can assign, they can assign 2 players to the minors. So there's still some work to do in this off season or before the season starts. So we know you've all been waiting for the details of our second anniversary contest. So let's get on to that. So
yes, so September 5th is the official anniversary of our podcast. And of course, we want to celebrate with you, our listeners, because we wouldn't be doing this without your support over the past 2 years. So to qualify for the random draw, you would have to follow us or like us on Instagram. Our handle there is at LTL1917. You need to like our anniversary post and tag 2 friends. And that's it. We will post these details on all our social media channels, and we will announce the winner on our start of the season podcast in October. So the deadline to enter is September 30th. So watch for these posts and definitely enter. Tell your friends, get everybody on board, and you can win this great giveaway that we have coming up for you.
Yeah, and for the prize, we got some Leaf swag items and a Tim's gift card. So definitely want to enter and tell everyone, and you don't want to miss out on it, because we have a couple of fun items to give away, and then the Tim's gift card. So before we go, we want to thank all our listeners, and as usual, we'd always love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts on what we talked about on the show, if you agree with us, disagree, you can DM us on social media or email us at ladiestalkingleafs@gmail.com, and be sure to follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our handle is at LTL1917.
Mm-hmm. And another way you can connect with us is at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there. And if you choose to, you can also support us there by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. So you can find the link for our Ko-fi page on our show notes or on any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers for everything they've done. I don't know if you saw it, Sil, but at the Blue Jays game, the opening on Friday, they had the Toronto. I think every game they're going to have a hospital staff there.
Yeah, actually,
at these games.
There was a lottery for our healthcare workers.
Yeah, so they it was just great though the way they had them out there with they had the flags, and then they introduced like the team coming out and all that, and they were on the field and that. So that's it's something with the whether it be the Raptors, the Leafs, well, the Blue Jays. Thankfully, they're back home now, and it was just great to see that they celebrated our healthcare workers for everything that they've done and they continue to do. So thank you for listening, and please also, if you could please follow or subscribe, basically, to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite app. And if you're listening to Apple Podcasts or Podcast Addict, we'd appreciate it if you could give us take the time to give us a review. We'd love to get your feedback on the show, as it will help give us more exposure as an outlet for Leaf content.
And definitely share with your family and friends. You can all listen together on the patio while you sip your favorite summer beverage. Anyway, as always, we hope that everyone stays safe and well, and we will talk to you next month or maybe sooner if something else exciting happens. Go Leafs, go!
Leafs, go!